brothers and sisters, family first and foremost. So I'm going to get into COVID, whatever you want to call it. You call it COVID? Actually, you call it COVID. I call it COVID. Anyways, so the question is, why are so many people dying? Now, I can tell you personally, I've been to these hospitals, and I haven't seen, there was one hospital I did see some weird shit at, but yeah, that was the situation room, if you catch my drift. It was, actually. But here's the situation behind COVID. COVID is actually, it's not just COVID that is actually killing people, okay? Now, with COVID comes, and I've recently went through a depression that I feel like I am coming out of. COVID, because of COVID, people are isolating. Now, as humans, we are actually very social creatures, okay? So now what do you see? People using Zoom, right? Well, that's not social interaction. That is, basically what you're watching right now. It's social media to an extent, but it's not like seeing somebody in person. Human touch is very important, you have to understand. With that said, a lot of people are, first and foremost, going into poverty. So we have poverty stricken. You're gonna see this, it's about to get really bad, I can assure you. When I say bad, I mean to the point where, I don't want to sound like an asshole, but maybe this needed to happen. I feel like the world is definitely overpopulated, but it is like the rapture, like I keep saying, it is the rapture. Very similar. So, is it COVID that's making people really sick? Or is it the implications with the fact that, well, one, you got school is out, so now we're gonna have a bunch of dummies when they turn, you understand what I'm saying? School is that you gotta learn something, and school is a very sociable place. So when you have kids younger, and I'm not that old, but smart, when I was 14, we didn't have smartphones yet. Catch my drift? So now you have people that are drinking excessively because they have nothing better to do, because they may have lost their job. As I said, you have poverty, in which I believe that you're going to see a crisis. And I keep explaining, something's coming. I know it's coming. Dude, I called this COVID shit out. I swear on everything I love, family. About 6 years ago, 6 to 8 years ago, I knew something very similar was gonna happen like this. I swear to God, everything I love, I knew this was coming. So I didn't know COVID was coming, but I knew that something was coming. And I even went to the mental hospital for it. And they're like, what do you know that we don't know? I was like, I just know something's coming. And so I wouldn't talk about it. Because obviously I was under a Baker Act. I don't want to get into that. Fuck that shit. Anyhow, so you're going to have people dying from depression. Suicide rates are going up. Alcoholism, drug abuse. But the one thing that I've noticed going down is crime. I don't see too much crime, which I think is very interesting. So you have all these implications from COVID. But what is COVID? Okay, it goes against the Geneva Convention, first of all, what does that really mean? The Geneva Convention said there's no biological warfare that shall be used against, and this is to my best of my knowledge of how to explain it, no biological warfare shall be used against any country. Well, what do you have? It allegedly came from Wuhan, China. Is it China's fault? If they made it in a lab, then fucking right, dude. That's illegal. It's not illegal. That's actually a war crime in itself. Matter of fact, so you got people dying from depression, alcoholism, soon to be poverty, and we're gonna have an economic collapse. And when the economic collapse happens, and it's coming, we are already in a very deep, how do I say, recession. we're almost in a depression. People just don't acknowledge it. I don't think people understand that we're pretty close to being in a depression. But yeah, so COVID is a patented. Think about this. COVID is a patented. Before I get cut off here, virus.